So this is the statement that came from the Ghana Journalists Association. I'm guessing that Ransford has gone through it. Okay, so this is it. The Ghana Journalists Association, GJA, is urging extreme caution over the media coverage of the simmering conflict between His Royal Majesty Otumfour Setutu II, the Asantehene, and the Dormaahene Osajifo Agyemangbedu II. It is needless to state that the hypersensitive issue involving the two prominent chiefs can degenerate into a conflict of unthinkable proportions. If it is not handled with the highest degree of circumspection, especially by the media. The sensational tilt and explosive angles which have characterized the coverage of the verbal exchanges should, therefore, give way to conflict-sensitive reporting, which will allow tempers to cool down and the issues to be contained or resolved in the long run. The GJA particularly wants traditional media editors and social media activists to filter any pronouncements from the two chiefs through a very tight weave of journalistic responsibility and gatekeeping. In other words, they should think through the consequences or weigh fully the implications of anything they put out on the matter. This is to ensure that the public is fed with ethically wholesome and culturally edifying information, which will not escalate the tension nor compromise the peace and security in the two traditional areas, and by extension, the entire nation. Finally, the media must be part of the solution and part of a chieftain's and not part of a chieftaincy clash of staggering magnitude. Okay, that's from Afilmoni, the president of the Ghana Journalists Association, and it's a statement that we think is in very good light. So Afilmoni put the statement out there. But as I was saying, we're trying to read the book, and it's a matter of constitutional law, I think. It's a matter of constitutional crisis. So the whole conflict is about, is it a conflict? I mean, the whole concern is about conquest occurred in every part of the world. I mean, the world was about conquest. Europe conquered this, France conquered Britain, and all the territories you see today are the territories that the League of Nations decided that wherever you have conquered up to, you don't conquer anymore, because we don't want a world of continuous wars. After the First World War and Second World War, it was determined that we don't want any more wars. Many more wars were fought before the First World. Religious wars, Catholic versus Protestant, territorial. It was all about wars, survival, conquest, territorialism. That's how the world used to be. And so, after the Second World War, League of Nations and later on the United Nations decided that wherever you are, stop there. So when the colonialist adventurers came to West Africa and to Africa and to all the places that they went to, they observed similar trends. There was wars and conquest all over the place. So Ashanti was fighting Dinchra was fighting Fanti was fighting Bono, Dagomba was fighting Gonja was fighting Sisala. That's how it was. And why were they fighting? They were fighting for territory. And so when you fight somebody and you're able to defeat him, you take his territory, and then they become your servants. And after a while, you go through negotiations. So that's what was happening at the time the colonial commercial adventurers handed over the territory to the political colonialists, which is Her Majesty the British Authority. Or His Majesty at the time it was, as the case may be. Okay, so when that happened, sometime in the 1946 Alan Burns Constitution in Ghana had quite a bit to say about ending the territorial conflict. Of course, we know the Gettysburg Constitution 1925 was a developmental constitution. It set up building the infrastructure, especially in southern Accra, Kolebu Hospital, universities, etc., etc. By 1946, Ghana had been, the other parts of Ghana were joined to the colonial Ghana to become the Gold Coast, or if you like, these days, we say Greater Gold Coast. So the Greater Gold Coast will be beyond Accra, beyond Eastern Region, Ashanti in the north, and all of that. So all of that became part of Ghana. The technical name for it was the Colony, Ashanti, and the Northern Territories. That's a technical name that was used in all the documents. The Colony, Ashanti, and the Northern Territories, all commanded by the British governor. Okay, and the nature of rule was a direct rule from the governor to the colonial territories, that's in the south, and then what they call indirect rule. By now you know that indirect rule was defined by Lord Lugard, etc., etc. And talk of Lugard, Lord Lugard was a famous man in Nigeria, British colonial authority, and when Achimota School was created, one of the houses was named after Lugard. It's called Lugard House. Incidentally, Charles Dormaahene, who is the Minister of State at the Ministry of Finance, was in Lugard House. Tonight he's in the studio. He's our guest. He's going to tell us about the e-levy. But I'm going to ask him a question. I'm going to ask Charles a question. Why is the economy hard? Why are people saying the economy is hard? Is the economy really hard? What is happening? He has answers for that. And then I'm sure that after you've heard him, there will be a bit of confidence because I have heard him. Okay, so that's coming up after Honorable Miracle Duka has left us. Just aside. Okay, so now territories come and they say, stop where you are Ashanti, stop. You can't continue acquiring territory by conquest. You can't do that anymore. Wherever you are, define it, that's going to be the territory. Okay, so that was done. The Asantehene then controlled Ashanti of today, Bono, Ahafo, some parts of all of those places. And then came the First Republic. Oh no, did I say First Republic? Then came Kwame Nkrumah's government from 1951. And then in the book that I showed you, Nkrumah and the Chiefs, all of these things is detailed. So Nkrumah and the Chiefs is a narrative from 1951 until 1960. Okay, so at that time, there was a bit of tension between the NLM. We know all of those things. The parties that were formed in Ashanti and Nkrumah and all of that. It is believed that as a result of the tension, Nkrumah decided to divide Ashanti, and then he created Bono Ahafo region. According to the narrative, when he created Bono Ahafo region, he, however, maintained and sustained the relationships between the traditional authorities. So if you were subservient to one or you swore allegiance to the other, Nkrumah didn't seek to change that. He just created a region for the political administration of Ghana. Okay, so this is where it looks like it's coming from. It's a bigger question we have to ask ourselves. And it's in Ghana territory, it's in Fanti territory and all of that. Having created a nation state, are all smaller traditional authorities within the nation states of equal consequence within the context of the nation state? If we answer the question in the affirmative, then we go ahead like that. If we answer the question in the negative, then we need to define what is the extent of consequence of this traditional authority against that tradition. What are we going to use? Are we going to use territory? Are we going to use minerals? Are we going to use wealth? What are we going to use to do that? Okay, so these are the questions that we think we'll be able to answer once we finish the research. Suffice it to say that we don't want our very, very important chiefs having to have a conflict. And we think that the Asantehene is a very, very important chief, and we think that there should be no conflict between him and other people. And I'm sure that important people are going to talk about this. But it's important in the era of social media that the video goes viral. People can listen to what he's saying and then make a decision. But many people believe that the Asantehene is so important that perhaps we shouldn't find him in a conflict situation like that. This video is for the Asantehene.
Otumfour Asantehene
Sure.